have an interest in being effective, right? I also like to listen to people where they are and serve their needs from where they are. So, just in terms of how we develop this class, there is an opportunity for us to do it together. By listening, I will listen and we'll come up with ideas in terms of what it is that we want to explore.
Um, Hello, everyone. I'm here with Kate, and we are the co founders of Spiritual Self Awareness. We are here tonight to interview Nataki Bhatti, who is going to be doing a class on spiritual self awareness on Heartbeat. And we have some questions for her. She's an artist. She has an amazing background in spiritual accreditations, which hopefully she will talk to us about. And we are going to have her talk to us about her class coming up as well. So we have some questions. Um, Nataki, first of all, first question I have is where and when did you really experience an awakening of your spiritual self and your in terms of your art and otherwise?
Oh, beautiful. I really enjoy that question. And I also want to say thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here and like so excited to share my message, my inspiration, my story. And it's very interesting and probably not unique. I think all of us have threads of creativity. I come from a continuum of creative artistry and expression. I'm a third generation artist. My mother was a weaver, a printmaker, a designer of clothing and wall hangings, um, and a paper maker and doll maker, a very unique creative person. Also, my grandfather, whom I lived with for a brief time, was also a creative. He would never call himself a folk artist, but that's what he was. Every day he would come home and he would make things from found objects, junk. He would make these beautiful things, birds, people, paintings out of nuts and bolts. Very unique. So I have a family tradition in that, but the creative spirit was really instilled by my mother. And the first experience that really made an impact on me creatively was when she asked me to paint on some fabric. She always had like a studio or a design studio, a gallery. And in my childhood, often we like lived above it or in it, or sometimes like we didn't have normal furniture. We had looms. We didn't have a sofa or a dining table. We had three looms in the living room and the dining room and sewing, and she had apprentices. So I grew up like with weaving and crochet. She taught me some painting, and she had asked me to paint on some fabric, right? And I was probably in junior high school around this time, but it made such an impact because I didn't know what I was going to paint. I didn't feel like I really had anything special to offer. But I painted what I knew. And like many kids, I like to draw and paint eyeballs. So I painted this. I've painted this yardage of maybe 2 yards of fabric with just eyeballs, like blue eyeballs, green eyeballs, brown eyeballs with the eyelashes, and um I remember not feeling confident about it, but she took it and she made this beautiful dolman sleeve jacket from it. And then she put it in her shop, and sold it. Then she gave me some money for it. So I was so we had like this opening of a process of me expressing something true to me in that moment as a child, which was like the eyeball, the all seeing eye, that fascination with awareness. And um, being able to create something be a part of something that's functional, right? And then get the reward, which was the money. So that was like an incentive. And it taught me, it's an example of um, how there were many layers to the practice of creative expression that was instilled by my mother. So I grew up with this, I had supplies. Like there was, we in my mom's studio there would be a crock pot filled with wax that she was making batik silk with, or weaving. I used to crochet the clothing for my Barbie dolls. But the nurture was what was most impactful. The nurture and the invitation to creatively express myself. My mother gave me the gift of self expression through visual art, through the hand, through working with my hand. And something about working with the hand helps the mind get out the way. So we know these practices in automatic writing. Perhaps like there are some other things that we work with our hand to help us connect with a different aspect of ourselves. My mother taught me how to connect with my intuition by providing me with these simple practices. So, what began as just painting on fabric developed into me being able to connect with myself in a way that I could develop my own symbols, right? Or through the process of writing, I was able to connect with an aspect of myself. I would start with the prompt and my mind would go blank and the words would come effortlessly. Right. And so that's always been my process. Like when I paint or I'm creating, it comes effortlessly. So that's the flow. Right. And
So, so to interrupt just a minute, what I'm hearing from you is there. You said it was about nurture, but you also talked about nature, and this is my commentary. You talked about how you have come from a family of artists, so you talked really about both of those aspects. So um, I would like you to talk a little bit about who your students are, how you envision them, what is your process with them, what do you want them to, where do you want them to go when they experience you in your class?
That is a beautiful unpacking of process that you're inviting me to explain. And I will give a little bit about my background. I've been a community artist for many, many years. I've developed programs and projects working with community. And my approach has always been to I have an interest in being effective, right? I also like to listen to people where they are and serve their needs from where they are. So, just in terms of how we develop this class, there is an opportunity for us to do it together. By listening, I will listen and we'll come up with ideas in terms of what it is that we want to explore. So, some of the things that we have talked about, like as potential topics, would be angels and guides, astrology, animal communication, soul painting, goddesses, the dream. So these are all topics that we can explore together. But there's another layer to that, and that has to do with our group intention. So on September 10th, I'll be doing an introduction. It's an opportunity to get to know me and my process, and I'll also invite people to create a group intention together for the class that begins in October. So an example of a group intention would be to explore the mirror within, or how to shift perspective, or perhaps it's to release old stories or paradigms, or learning to connect with the flow, connect with the radiant self, right? So we'll set a group intention, and then I will develop a method in which we can express that. So the art making itself is more of a byproduct of a deeper awareness and activation that happens through the workshop. Um, it's art as a verb, right? So the art itself is an action that cannot be measured. And that's the transformation that we experience together when we creatively self express. So the projects that we and my it's also important to know that I really take into consideration some of the anxieties that people experience when you talk about, oh, we're going to do an art workshop. The first thing, the most common um, response that I get about when I invite people to participate in an art, oh, I'm not an artist, right? So that's the first thing that has to be addressed in the workshop is we go through a journey of self-acceptance in our capacity to create, right? We're creators. Like, that is the most beautiful gift of the human experience, is our ability to create. And art or creative expression is just one of many, many facets in which we can do that. So we have a group intention, and then we develop a project. So we're going to have two classes. Each class will be 2 hours each, with an optional, like we'll stay on like perhaps an hour if someone if someone wants to just continue to be in presence and create together. But the instruction or the commitment will be 2 hours. Um, so we'll have those two classes. They're a week apart, and then in between we're going to have an open studio, and that's more about just coming together to work on our project. There isn't any type of instruction that happens there specifically. However, I'm there for any questions or about technique or plans for the work. Then we will have an option if people are interested. Once we finish our project, sometime after, we can have a live event in which we invite community to come and we share our work and our process together. It's like an online art show. So I really take special consideration in the needs of the people that are participating in the workshop, and especially to break down those barriers of limitation, right? A lot of times in my workshops, like for newcomers, I'll say, hey, listen, our goal is to make the ugliest thing we can possibly make. We're going to make ugly art, okay? And that helps release the expectation of, oh, I got to make something that's good. Because really, the goal is self expression and to go into who we are, right? And allow that purity to shine through in whatever aspect that it can.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question. What if
Yes.
I decide I want to take your class, but I say to you, I can't draw. I've never been able to draw anything that looks like anything is supposed to be. I can't. I try to draw a bird. It doesn't look like a bird. So what am I going to be able to do in this class if I can't draw?
Okay. You know what? That so many people have that same feeling and thought. And I will say my mother was an artist who could not draw. She could not render. What you're talking about is illustration and rendering. That is a skill that you have to learn. It's not necessarily like something that you just know. It's a skill that you learn and you practice. So if you have an interest in that, it's like learning math. There are certain specific techniques that you learn in order to do that. But as far as this class, and let me say, everyone has the capacity to learn, right?
Right.
But as far as this class, we are emphasizing the expression, and we don't have to draw. My approach is we're not going to be doing a lot of drawing. We'll be doing some painting, or we'll be doing some collage work, you know? So the emphasis again will be on the action, right? The experience of connecting with the materials. So perhaps like a project may be an intuitive form of painting where you're just looking at colors and shapes, right? And placing them together in a way in which I will direct to and guide to help better connect with ourselves. So, for instance, an instruction may be as part of like the fifth step in a project would be to paint dots. And with each dot, pick a color, two colors. Let's paint the dot somewhere on our page that may cover 1/4 of the canvas or the paper. And with each dot, say a prayer, right? So taking that time to make the dot and to say, connect with an intention in the mark making of the dot. So that's just an example of a very specific process, depending on how people give feedback. Again, this is an invitation. We can create together a group intention. And it may be expressed in a technique that we all feel comfortable with, like mandala making. You know, there are very specific techniques that we can use through what kind of project that we decide to do together. Another example may be to make prayer flags. You know, prayer flags can be made with paper or fabric. You can use paint or markers or paint markers. So we do have some options, but I always consider people and their needs. So I first and foremost really try to set up a platform in which everyone will feel good about what they create. right?
What do you, since you're talking about materials, how much do you think people will need? Can you give us an estimate on how much people will need to spend on materials for this class? And when would they need those before the first introductory class, or would they be getting those after the first introductory class?
Be getting those after the introduction. So we will have a list. There may be some supplies that are already, that you have in your home, like glue, scissors, perhaps some types of paper. If we use magazines, um, and I think a fair expectation for new supplies would be anywhere from, I would say, around about $50, right?
Okay.
That will be the goal that I will set. However, depending on if someone wants to get better supplies and perhaps continue their practice, I'll also give options on other supplies that they can get. And then, of course, there may be people who already have a creative practice and they have a bunch of supplies. Like, bring what you have. And, although I'll be focused on like beginner technique, or a technique for people who've never used that technique, right? So it's the rudimentary instruction. For those who already have experience, like, this is creativity. So you use the point of departures that you have. You may we may begin with painting and you end up using pastel or yarn or whatever it is that you're inspired to use. Yeah. And I will have a supply list with and also I'll create like an Amazon um, list of the supplies. So if you choose, you could just go and just buy the supplies from like Amazon. But I'll also have the list. You can use independent sources as well. And we'll have at least 3 to 2 weeks. So even that gives time to check out like the art supply stores or the craft stores, see what they have. They may have some other things on sale that you may want to get. Like glitter may not be on the list, but like maybe you like glam, so bring the glam.
I think what I'd like to do now, if it's okay with you, is open up the floor here, or the screen in this case, to other people who are here, and see if they have any questions for you. And also maybe you for them.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned a whole lot of ways you can bring spirituality into this. I really liked what you said about the dots. That was fascinating. But can you elaborate a little bit more about how you bring spirituality into artwork?
Good. Thank you for that question. Yes, I'm very passionate about this subject, and essentially from the lessons that my mother had instilled in me, and then my life's work, it has culminated in an integration of spirit, of creativity, and of ascension. Essentially being able to connect and source the truth of who we are and allow it to come forth. So I see creativity as a spiritual practice, right? It comes from um, a place of soul talk, right? So we're not rendering or drawing, we're allowing, or painting, we're allowing our soul to speak. And part of that process also in the workshop may involve some meditation to ground us, to center us, and to clear us, and allow us to be present in our space to connect with our higher self and allow what needs to express. And it may be a higher aspect of ourselves, or it may be a clearing. It may be part of our emotional or our emotional body or our mental body. It may be a channeling that comes from loved ones, ancestors, or angels or guides. Like we have that opportunity, right? So art, to me, creativity is sacred, right? So even in the workshop, we will have that sacredness and really hold within ourselves that space of divinity, right? That comes through the creativity, but also honoring ourselves. It's really beautiful. And that's part of, I feel, my calling is to help people connect with their divine self or their higher self, and to gain the clarity that's needed to express what needs to be expressed. So that is inspired creative action, or the illuminated creative action. So what is the first step? The first step is to learn how to self-express. And that's what we'll be doing. We'll be expressing ourselves, and it'll be a process that you'll be invited to continue, right? To continue it as a practice.
Thank you. That was a beautiful answer.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Karen? No?
Karen, I invite you to ask any questions.
Well, you've already. I feel that I am very much not an artistic person. I don't sing. I don't do artsy very well. So it'll be a experiment with my own coming out of that, I guess.
I'm so glad that
I have never. I mean, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You have never.
I have just, that's never been a strong point for me in any type of artistry. Spiritually, yes, I enjoy meditation. I enjoy doing the spiritual stuff immensely, and I've gotten a lot out of that, but I've just never been singing, and in any type of expression of art is something I've never felt very connected with.
I'm so glad that you shared that, because you know what? You're not alone. And I think most people feel that way. And it's, so we'll have, and at first I want to say that I really, I focus on creating an atmosphere in which everyone feels comfortable. Like, that is a major part of it. And it's also a very tender, vulnerable place, right? And I have to respect that for everyone, because you're not alone. And what you're expressing is what most people may feel. Well, I've never been creative. Like, haven't, I don't dance, I don't sing, I don't draw, I don't paint, right? And I think a lot of that is firstly because of how we categorize or define creative expression. It's mostly associated with the arts. But I invite you to think of other ways that creativity comes through, because it may not be art. It may be cooking. It may be in how you mother. It may be in how you build relationship with your significant other, right? How you arrange your home, how you organize an event, how you do your job. Like, all of those are means for creativity to express. So what we're affirming is not so much what we make, but the expression, the flow of it, right? So the method, we're using visual art, and in combination possibly with writing, and perhaps some other means that that comes from our group intention. Again, I'm designing this in a malleable space. So your feedback, even today, what you just said, is going to be part of the intention of this group. So now we're serving women or men, whomever, that have that same feeling and doubt and limitation when it comes to art making or visual art or self-expression. So it'll be a safe space for that. I will be tender and tend to that and encourage, like, just that, you know, my mother used to, I was a very introverted child. I was very shy, so even in moments like, when she would take a picture, I was just looking at a picture of myself as a girl, and I had my hand on my hip and I was smiling. And I remember my mom made me do that, right? She said, put your hand on your hip. Now smile, because really I was just like this, but she was like, put your hand on your hip, put your head up and smile. And she would say, Nataki, show your stuff. Show it, right? Express who you are. Like, and it was hard for me because I was such an introvert. And that's how it is for us sometimes. Like, when it comes to who we, like, that vulnerability, like, there's so very few instances in life where we're truly heard. So now we're serving women or men, whomever, that have that same feeling and doubt and limitation when it comes to art making or visual art or self-expression, right? So when you're doing something creative, regardless if it's and you're presenting it to another person, that vulnerability, like, I'm gonna try this, but I'm not sure, right? Or I'm gonna try this. That's the first step, and I'm not. I don't think it's gonna be any good, right? That's what we have to address energetically within the group, right? And play. Like, it's not going to be that serious. Like, we're going to play. Like I said, ugly art. Ugly. We're going to do the ugly. And we're going to have fun with it, because no one is, we are our worst judge. So,
Yeah.
the freedom, once we tap into the freedom and that's activated, wow, what comes out then is, sometimes it's an open flow.
Yeah.
It just opens in every aspect of your life, and it's really beautiful and dynamic. So it'll be a safe space and tender, thoughtful consideration. Yeah.
I have to say this to all the people that are out there listening. How fortunate we all are to have someone like Nataki that has no idea really what she's going to finish, because she's letting the students that show up kind of determine the flow, and she's going to come up with the way to make it flow. I guess how to put it. And I can't think of another teacher that I've ever known that has done that. You know, they have a way of doing things, and you're going to do it my way, and this is what it's going to be. And this feels safe. It feels spiritual and very secure, and like just wrapped in love. I thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Ah.
I think that's a great way to wrap this up. What Nataki said last, and also what Kate said last, pretty much says it all, I believe. So very happy to have everyone tune in, and please come and join us. You will be on Heartbeat on Spiritual Self-Awareness. You can find us there, and you can go to events there, and you will see Nataki's class, and you'll be able to sign up for it. Kate, do you want to give any better directions than what I just did?
I will put all the links that you need underneath this video when we get it uploaded, and I'm just really looking forward to this. But all the links that you will need, and once you jump over to Heartbeat, I just would like to tell people, don't wait until the last minute. Right. You know, because it is a process. You know, you have to put your name in, you have to wait for an email, and then you have to respond to that email. So you know, give yourself a little bit of time. But we have, over on Heartbeat, we have regular events. Carol does an event every other Sunday called Let's Talk About It. She dives deep into lots of different subjects. It's a wonderful evening, and it lasts about an hour, hour and a half, depending on how many people show up. We also do full and new moon, and we do journeys during that. And we have an astrologer that comes on, and she talks about what's going on. And what else do? We are doing a book study.
We have a healing circle.
We're doing a book study of the Seth material, and we do a healing circle once a month on the second Tuesday.
And we have more upcoming classes.
Yes. So. Yes, right. Those are just the regular things that happen on a regular basis. So you can jump into any of those that you would like.
Yep, and we welcome people to get in touch with us if you want to do a class or a presentation of any kind. That's what we're here for. So, okay.
If I could add, if possible, that the introductory class presentation is more a get to know me and my process, and then also to offer feedback, or we just explore together what our group intention will be on September 10th. And then I also want to extend the invitation, like I am so accessible. If you want to send an email, if you want to chat, if you would like to have a call, any type of feedback, conversation, I love that. I love the interaction. So
okay.
And thank you so much to both of you for, giving this opportunity, to share the message about creative expression, and, to really give this opportunity to others to share in it. So thank you so much.
We're honored to have you, honestly. So
yeah, this sounds wonderful. Yeah, it does.
Thank you.
All right.
So, all right. That's a wrap.
Thank you.